Kelly Ripa is one of America's favorite morning show personalities. Not only is she a staple on your TV, she's also one of the fittest women in show business. At 52, she literally has six-pack abs. Her marriage is also serious goals. Kelly has also been married to fellow actor Mark Consuelos for 27 years. Based on her many gigs, Kelly knows how to hustle, and she has amassed quite the fortune. So if you're here because you want to know how much money Kelly Ripa really has, you've come to the right place. Here's everything to know about how the star has made her massive sums of cash over the years and her total net worth. Kelly got her start in the 1990s on the soap All My Children. She also starred in the ABC sitcom Hope and Faith from 2003 to 2006, according to IMDb. Since then, she's appeared on a number of TV shows, including Riverdale, The Jim Gaffigan Show, and Ugly Betty. She makes a killing hosting Live with Kelly and Mark. She has co-hosted a talk show since 2001. The show has changed names over time, but is now called Live with Kelly and Mark. Before that, it was called Live with Kelly and Ryan and Live with Regis and Kelly. Kelly makes $22 million each year for Live, according to Celebrity Net Worth, which is just seriously impressive. Back in 2017, she was making an $18 million salary for the show, according to Forbes, and that was expected to go up to $20 million in 2018. Kelly has also lent her face to many brands and commercials. In recent years, she's represented Colgate, Tide, Pantene, Ancestry.com, Electrolux, and more. She sold her penthouse in NYC for $20 million back in 2014, according to Zillow. And she and Mark live in a $27 million townhouse now, according to the New York Daily News. Kelly and Mark also have a gorgeous summer home in Telluride, Colorado, that they shared with People. And also a home in the Hamptons, according to E! News. So Kelly's combined real estate portfolio with Mark is worth roughly $45 million, Celebrity Net Worth says. Kelly and her husband Mark own a New York-based production company called Melojo Productions. According to The Hollywood Reporter, she is working on a new crime show that premiered on Oxygen. Kelly wrote a memoir in 2022 called Live Wire, Long-Winded Short Stories. In the book, Kelly talks about how she and Mark met, the chauvinism that she has experienced on set, and her own embarrassing moments. Kelly's book became a New York Times bestseller, and she posted the sweetest thank you to her fans on Instagram afterward. What spare time? Kelly began hosting Generation Gap on ABC in 2022, which is a spin-off show that takes inspiration from a segment on Jimmy Kimmel Live. The show features family members of different ages working together to try to answer questions about each other's generations. It was renewed for a second season in March of 2023 per IMDb, and it's called Pine Valley. The show will feature Kelly and Mark, who are set to reprise characters from their old soap days. Susan Lucci is also on board, according to IMDb. If it's successful, Kelly will definitely rake in some more dough from this project. Well, there's some debate on the topic. According to The Richest, Kelly's worth about $75 million, but according to CelebrityNetWorth.com, she comes in at $120 million. Kelly woke up the way she had taught herself to wake up for a quarter century, before the rest of the city had decided whether it would be bright or gray, with an agenda in her head and a little knot of nerves in her stomach that tasted, she always thought, like opportunity. At 52, she moved with a kind of economy and energy that made 52 look young. When she laughed, it filled a room, and when she listened, you could see a dozen small decisions forming behind her eyes. The mirror in her Upper East Side bedroom reflected a woman who had been forged on live television, quick, precise, unflappable, and beneath the practiced poise there was the same curious girl who had nervously read lines on a soap set in the 1990s and then discovered she liked being in other people's mornings as much as she liked making her own. Her life was something that read easily as success. The headlines could be crisp and reductive: a salary number, a townhouse price, best-selling memoir. But any tidy list, $22 million dollars from the show each year, Penthouse sold for $20 million dollars in 2014, real estate portfolio roughly $45 million, dollars, only told the visible architecture of a life that felt, in private, more improvisational. Kelly had learned to build those numbers out of 1,000 tiny decisions, most of them about showing up and speaking honestly into a microphone when millions of people might be listening and one person might need to hear the exact thing she was about to say. The show had been a classroom and a forge. For more than 2 decades, she had co-hosted a program that changed names as co-hosts came and went, but the rhythm remained: cheeky banter, surprising vulnerability, a willingness to test confessional humor on live air. Live with Kelly and Mark was the latest permutation, and the paycheck, reported in articles, cited by gossip columnists and business magazines alike, was a reflection of that enduring draw. She made what many considered a jaw-dropping sum for a daytime host, $22 million a year, according to contemporary reports. Numbers like that made for easy cocktail party conversation. They also allowed her to build the kind of life in which a Telluride lodge felt like a needed retreat rather than a status symbol. Mark, her husband of 27 years, was both stage partner and counterweight. Their marriage, public and private at once, had become a kind of admired balancing act. Co-parents, collaborators, occasional scene partners who could slip into soap characters for the right project, like actors stepping back into familiar costumes. They had a production company together, Melojo Productions, where they pitched ideas and nurtured projects that let them flip the script, not just to star, but to create. There was a moment early in their partnership when she had believed that career and love might be separate rooms. She had been a young actress on All My Children, learning how to make the camera feel less like an intruder and more like a companion. Then came sitcom work, a string of guest spots on shows with names that glittered in the industry: Riverdale, Ugly Betty, The Jim Gaffigan Show, little signposts of a career that was versatile and restless. Hosting, she discovered, was a kind of generous craft. The conversations were unscripted, the stakes immediate, and the audience never demanded perfection so much as authenticity. She could be funny and furious and fragile in the span of a commercial break, and the show rewarded that fluidity. Her book, published in 2022 and titled with a kind of self-aware flourish that had become her brand, Live Wire, long-winded short stories, arrived like a clarifying note. She wrote about the blanching moments of chauvinism on set, the friendships that had anchored her, the embarrassments that were only funny in retrospect. It was, she said in interviews, an attempt to map the messy geography of her life. The literal places, New York Penthouse, Telluride Slopes, Hampton's Refuges, and the inner places no camera could capture. When the book hit the New York Times bestseller list, she was more grateful for the validation from readers than for column inches in the entertainment pages. She would post a photo on Instagram, a cup of coffee, a hand-lettered note of thanks, and the comments would bloom with stories from people who had been comforted by her candor. For all the glossy numbers attached to her name, that response was the currency she trusted. And yet the numbers had a logic. After years of fronting a daytime show that was, in many ways, an American ritual, her salary crept upward in those headlines. $18 million a year, then projections of $20 million, then the figure that made people pause: 22. People calculated net worths: $75 million, $120 million, and argued about what should be counted and what should be private. Kelly knew the math could be reductive. She also knew the work felt like economy. Hosting a daily program was not the occasional glamorous red carpet. It required steadiness, the ability to bring humor to a grieving family discussing a tragedy on the same day. She joked about a new toothpaste commercial she had filmed. She had been the face for brands: Colgate, Tide, Pantene, Ancestry.com, Electrolux, endorsements that gave her both leverage and the occasional comedic paradox when she found herself plugging products she'd used since college. Money to her afforded choices, the freedom to make a show she believed in, to take a limited series gamble on a crime drama through Melojo, to produce a spin-off game show Generation Gap, where generational lines were the playground and the prize was a kind of gentle cultural education. When Generation Gap premiered in 2022 and earned a second season renewal in early 2023, Kelly liked the idea that she could use her platform to bridge conversations across ages rather than simply host them. The show was, in its own way, an example of how she thought about legacy, not as a ledger of wins, but as a series of doors opened for people to talk to one another. Home was not an address, but a set of rituals scattered across geographies. She and Mark had once sold a Manhattan penthouse for a reported $20 million, a number that read like an exclamation in real estate columns, and then moved into a townhouse that the press estimated at $27 million. There were summers in the Hamptons and hikes in Colorado, a house in Telluride that smelled of pine when she returned in winter. She liked cooking in large pans for friends, piling plates high for neighbors, and telling stories around a kitchen island until someone fell asleep at the table. Her life was punctuated by flight manifests and rehearsal schedules, but the anchors were ordinary: a child's recital, the way sunlight hit a breakfast table, an intimate text thread with a friend that could be repaired into laughter. People loved to frame public lives as comic relief or tragic novels. Kelly's was a hybrid. She had setbacks and embarrassments and televised wrong notes, but what remained constant was the repair. She believed in showing the stitches. Once on a live show, she misread a cue and went on a tangent that produced a 10-minute segment of bemused improvisation, the sort of moment that could have gone viral for the wrong reasons. Instead, she leaned into it, made a joke about being human, and the audience loved her for the same flaw that had been cataloged. That kind of moment, small and human, had value greater than any endorsement deal. The production company with Mark was not merely a business. It was an expansion of their creative selves. They developed a crime show that premiered on cable, a project that allowed Kelly to flex an actor's instincts she hadn't abandoned. They spoke with writers and directors, sat through table reads, negotiated budgets that made headline writers salivate. Producing was a way to channel her public persona into something that could outlive a ratings cycle, a chance to employ people to tell stories that had stakes beyond 3 commercial breaks. Still, the work demanded time. There were mornings when she considered the mythology of morning television itself. How many hosts had started the day with a song and a joke and ended it having sung someone back to?